Learn how a dedicated legal team won a precedent-setting case and a significant financial reward for their client. Winning with Inderjit Dhiman, lawyer at Prowse Barrette, on today's episode of the Executive Wins Podcast. Welcome to the Executive Wins Podcast, where senior leaders share their biggest wins so you can get inspired and grow your business. Here's your host, Gordon Shepherd. Welcome to the Executive Wins Podcast, where senior leaders share their biggest wins so that you can get inspired and grow your business. I'm your host, Gordon Shepherd. And to start the show, I want to share an important leadership lesson that I learned from Matthew Jubelius, CEO of Virtue Clinic, on episode 64. Matthew talked about why leaders should never rest on their laurels, but instead, they should always be moving forward as they get incrementally better each day. For me, that means that leaders should really take the right amount of time to celebrate what went well and learn from it, and then move on. Because as leaders, there is always so much more to do. And that is just one of hundreds of leadership lessons that you'll learn when you listen to past episodes on the Executive Wins Podcast. Another reason to listen? Well, the Executive Wins Podcast won the Best New Podcast Award in the Quill Podcasting Awards in its first year of production. And thanks to you, the Executive Wins Podcast has more than 51,000 views on YouTube and more than 29,000 minutes of watch time, along with having over 2,200 downloads on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen. Featuring mission-driven leaders sharing their biggest wins so that you can get inspired and grow your business. That's what you get on the Executive Wins Podcast. On today's episode, you'll learn how a dedicated legal team won a precedent-setting case and a significant financial reward for their client. Winning with Inderjit Dhiman, lawyer at Prowse Barrette. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our leadership team workshop called Winning Together: How Leadership Teams Can Align, Decide, and Deliver Outstanding Results. In this hands-on workshop, leaders learn a proven 5-step system to help them consistently make better decisions to improve alignment and profitability. It's called the Anatomy of a Win to help everyone on your team understand the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind every major initiative you take on. Imagine what would happen if every leader on your team is fully aligned and working hard to turn your goals into outstanding results. So if you want to break down silos and build a high-performance leadership team that makes your organization thrive, then get in touch with me directly at gord@executivewins.com. That's gord@executivewins.com. And now on to today's show. We are lucky to be joined by Inderjit Dhiman, lawyer at Prowse Barrette, a firm that provides experienced legal counsel for families, businesses, and individuals across Alberta. You can learn about their work at prowsebarrette.com. That's prowsebarrette.com. On this episode, you'll learn how Inderjit participated in a precedent-setting case that impacts employment law in Alberta. You'll also hear about the high level of dedication and teamwork that it takes to work on a case that lasted for more than 12 years, along with hearing about the ups and downs along the way. In addition, you'll find out why doing the right thing is such a motivator when it comes to taking on tough cases and seeing them through to the finish line. This episode is must listen for any leader who wants to learn how to motivate talented young staff, along with showing you how much legal teams can actually achieve for their clients when they stick to their values. I also want to remind you that this interview follows a specific format that I created called the Anatomy of a Win to help you learn the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind every business win that you hear on this show. I really do hope that you can use this approach to reach your next business milestone. And now here's Inderjit Dhiman with his executive win. Inder, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this.
Well, I'm really excited because I got lucky to meet you at a prestigious networking event. And fortunately, you took the extra minute or two to say hello and tell me about a really profound win that occurred in your legal career where you were part of a team that got something really interesting done that affects us all, which is remarkable. And I'm so pleased that you're going to be sharing that win here with us here today. But there's a lot of people that haven't met you yet. So if you had to introduce yourself, what would you say?
Yeah, so my name is Inderjit Dhiman. I'm a lawyer at Prowse Barrette LLP. I primarily work within surface rights, expropriation, general litigation, and we also work with tech companies, startups, and IP. So those are my niches. I'm working a little bit more towards the tech and IP side of things. Uh, I've been a lawyer for almost 2 years now, and been able to work with some amazing people at this firm and learning from some very, very good leaders in terms of areas of law, complex litigation, and complex issues. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Interesting. So we've got sort of a young sponge in a sense where you're in those
Yeah.
early days in your career, but you're getting a chance to be, I'm going to say mentored, get a chance to observe. That's fun.
Mhm.
This is a podcast for leaders. When you say
Yes.
you're working with good leaders, if you had to make a comment on the leadership that you're getting to experience there at the firm, what would you say about the leadership at the firm?
The leadership is really, really enthusiastic in terms of mentoring young lawyers, young professionals, as well as giving them the opportunity to work in some really, really interesting cases. So the leadership style here is a lot of you get a ton of responsibility and you get some guidance, but mostly it's learn with your head down, hands on the files, and really, really understand the legal process from the ground up. So as a first year associate, I was able to participate in trials. I was able to participate in international arbitrations with my hands on rather than just being in the background. And I think that's the style of leadership that really does produce really, really good results in terms of a young professional because I get that good experience. I become competent a little bit faster and I can actually start producing and being a part of this larger team in a meaningful way. And it allows me to use my passion, hard work, and see the dividends back from me, right? So instead of just being in the background, I get to see the results and I get to partake in the results and get that recognition as well, which is huge as a young professional.
Fantastic to hear, right? Learn by doing. And when we think about the leaders that listen to this podcast, that's a really good sort of witness statement in a sense for observing the leaders in your group and their style for, they wouldn't, I'm sure they'd have enough guardrails on there that you would never get out of bounds in a sense,
Yeah.
but they would allow you to go as far as you can, to grow as quickly as you can, to become a really vibrant participant in the entire group. That's really exciting to hear, and what a nice place for you to be in at this time. And what's great is when we spoke at the networking event, and I said, maybe I'll just start off with this phrase. If you had to describe your biggest win in the work that you've been involved with so far, what would that win be, and how would you describe it?
So my biggest win currently is being involved in a precedent setting decision. So uh, in February, March, we were in a week-long trial regarding an employment file. So a wrongful dismissal of a shareholder in a company. What happened was the employee was there for their entire career, had helped build this business, and was terminated when he was about 60, 62. What occurred from this decision was that the bonuses resulting from shareholdings was considered an employment damage, and we also received over 24 months. So in this file, we received 26 months of reasonable notice, which is the largest in Alberta history. So prior to this, there was a rough upper limit of 24 months. So regardless of how long you worked there, the maximum you would usually get is 24 months. But given the facts and given the advocacy from Phil Prowse, who is the partner that was running the file, I was there as a second, helping him out and doing some of the background work, dealing with the client. But due to our teamwork and his amazing advocacy skills, we were able to breach that upper limit, receive 26 months, have him be entitled to these bonus damages, which were upwards of almost $1.5 million. And the unique thing about this case, regardless of the result, was this was a 12-year process. And the client was willing to do the hard work with us and continue all the way to trial. There was multiple procedural issues going forward, lots and lots of court action, and then it culminated in this amazing victory for our client. So it was honestly the craziest thing I've done in the legal profession, and having had that experience so early in my legal career is invaluable. Like usually you don't get these kind of files until you're like 6, 7 years in. I got it during articling, and it really informed the way that I think about legal work and how to kind of continuously put in effort regardless of how long it takes. And
Interesting. So we've got sort of a legal scenario here where you get to do the right thing. There's
yeah,
something about that in here. I can hear the pride in your voice in the way that you're describing it. And thank you for getting into some details that I need to sort of clarify a little bit and then also sort of help the audience to kind of catch up. A precedent setting case. So the 12 years that it took, in a sense, to get this, you would have caught up with the last couple years of this process, in terms of, because the firm would have been carrying this case. We can hear this fella, with the wrongful or the dismissal issue occurred, and then it took a long time to kind of get to that fruition. But when we say precedent setting, the influence that it had in terms of the win, this case, what influence did it actually have on the law?
so this is another nod towards longer reasonable notice periods. So previously, regardless of how long you worked there, so if it's 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you would be stuck at 24 months. Now it's more contextual, and we've actually breached that rough upper limit. So if you are an employee who has been working at an employer for a very long time, you're thinking you want to retire there, and then suddenly you're dismissed for whatever reason, you may have a larger claim. And the unique thing about this was the company would bonus out at the end of each year. So having this 26 months entitled him to that last bonus. And I just want to qualify before we get even further into this precedent setting case is this is subject to appeal. So um, it isn't finalized yet. However, just having this decision and this reasoning within case law is huge for employees. It really shows that they are going to be protected if something wrongful does occur.
Interesting. So I'm just going to pick up on that. We have what was wrongful, proven wrongful to a certain degree. We have upper limits of the current law in labor, in a sense that said, wait a second, if you were there for a long time, 24 months was the max. But you said within the context of what you were able to present over this dozen-year period, it was able then to get to trial and then move through to say, nope, the context shows that we need to expand to 26 months, expand the opportunity here based on what was brought forward. I'm going to say there's something in there about service duration, service impact. There would have been all kinds of arguments, I'm sure, that allowed this to occur. But then we're looking at, when we say precedent setting case, this is a chance to change the law in the future, depending on, like you said, what the outcome is down the road. But that's sort of where it's headed. That's how big this is. Is that fair?
Yeah, that is totally fair because now the court has this ability to breach that 24 months. Before this, lots of judges and lots of decisions were timid in terms of going past that 24 months because it was convention. There's a rough upper limit. Unless there's extenuating circumstances, we're not going to breach that. And in Alberta, they never did. In Ontario, it's happened before, but in Alberta, it was never breached until this decision was made. And that is the biggest impact that has happened within this case. There were some other issues that are novel and that did work in our favor. However, the precedent setting is that 26 months.
Interesting. And so, and over a dozen years, because this is not an easy ride in terms of what we're doing. Great. So now we know the win is you were involved with a precedent setting case, working with the leadership that you described in your firm, and they were at it a dozen years. You pick up on those last couple of years, you get to dig in there and really kind of help, in a sense, get it over the finish line to a certain degree in terms of how far you were able to be participating in it. So we know what the win is. When we talk about a win in this interview, we then get into what I call the anatomy of a win. So we look at the strategy, the work plan, the people, operations, and results behind the win. Strategically, when we talk about strategy, we say, well, what's the vision, mission, values, goals in a sense? Because if I'm a lawyer and it's year 2, why don't I just go with status quo and collect my fees and get out the door? There's something about the value, visions, something of this firm, of these leaders that you're working with in the firm that wanted to stick with this. How would you describe the strategic highlights or values or something in there that made it so persistent over such a long time?
Yeah, so there was multiple offers regarding settlement. However, at our firm, we believe in being innovative, pushing the boundaries, and really advocating for our clients, regardless of whether it's a novel issue or not. So, if, in our opinion, he is entitled and he wants to do this and it is proper, the leadership has shown that they will fight tooth and nail until the end, right? So, in terms of values going forward, there were definitely issues. There were definitely some doubt regarding the outcome of this file. However, it's what the client is entitled to and what they actually want to see coming out of this. And one of the things that really did help the file and our almost confidence going into this trial was there were some small decisions that just came out maybe a year before that that really alluded to some of the issues that we were dealing with in this file. And having that backing, we kind of knew this was arguable, and we knew that our client had the right facts, that we had a shot. And having that shot, I think, really showed the leadership in terms of we need to do this properly and we need to give it our full vigor, right? Regardless of whether it's complex, unsure, the whole mindset of everyone that I deal with at Prowse Barrette has been, we're going to be thorough, we're going to put our 110% in, and we're going to try to do what's best for our client. And what happened was the best thing for our client was to go forward and go to trial and have our day there and really try to hit every single issue that we could. And it ended up being really good for our clients. So
Amazing, and a good outcome for everybody. Isn't that nice that we can look into your values as part of the strategy in a sense and say, you know what, this is a firm that does the right thing.
yeah,
And that's got to be a fun place to work, I think, for the right type of person in your situation, and also how nice for, I'm going to say, your partners to sleep well at night, when they, when they know they're doing right by whatever's happening. And because there's a lot of tough conversations in there along the way. It's year 5, it's year 8, it's this happened, there was this delay, there's that kind of thing, and yet here you were sort of being persistent along the way. I'm sure we could crack that open a lot more, but I just need to move on and say anytime we have a strategy, we need a work plan. And we've already heard sort of the timeline. There's a moment 12 years ago, 13 years ago, or whatever that is, where this case walks in the door. And we
Yeah.
start that ride in a sense. And can you describe some of the highlights in a sense along that timeline for this case?
Yeah. So the partner that ran the trial, he actually received this. I believe it was either in his first year or his articling year. So he's had this file for his entire career, which is crazy. And there were some discussions regarding, okay, we had an arbitration. How do we deal with that? There were some blockades in terms of procedural issues where the court was signaling, hey, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to allow you to do it anyways. And the thing behind this was the belief that he is entitled to this compensation and this is what's legally right. And that's what kind of drove the file forward. And as we got along, and as our client continued to get older, right, there are some definitely doubts regarding, should we compensate? Should we just come to a settlement and not get everything that he's entitled to? And the driving force, especially for us, was what's in the best interest of the client. And that's kind of how we moved forward. And just to touch on the partner sleeping at night, and myself as well, one of the nice things that I think for me working at this firm is we don't take on every single case. If we don't think you're entitled to something, or we don't think that something is proper, we won't take it. We can refer you out, right? We only take cases that we believe that you're legally entitled to. So we get cold calls, we get calls from potential clients, and we do our due diligence first, and our duty to the Law Society as well as to our clients is to advise them whether they should pursue this or not. We're not going to just take on files, take on clients where we think, hey, you're probably not entitled to this and it's not going to work out. And that helps us in terms of our ability to continuously put in that effort throughout the years.
Yeah,
And
even when there's doubt, right? Because if we're
yeah,
doing a 12-year process, there's doubt along the way, of course, and someone's
yeah,
getting older, and who knows, health becomes an issue, and then, well,
yeah,
yeah, should we just get out of here and get the best that we can? But you said you were protecting. You said you were doing your best for your client. There's also doing your best for society. Like if this is one of
yeah,
those precedent-setting cases in Alberta, and we imagine our aging population alone, there's going to be more out there where there are potentially wrongful dismissals at other places where somebody has made a significant contribution, and that ceiling that was there before at the 24 months and the limits on compensation that were there before now get an opportunity to say, wait a second, we have to, we can look at this case and see what that is. And you folks have done a lot of the heavy lifting along the way to make the arguments to allow this to occur. Wow, interesting. So we know the win, we know the strategy, we've got to feel for kind of that work plan. There's always people involved in a win. And if, let's just take you for fun and pick up on your part along the way. How would you describe your attitude when you first heard about the case? Was it easy sailing? You get in there and just do it along the way, or was it peaks and valleys for you along the way in terms of your participation? How would you describe your attitude through the whole process?
well, when I first got wind of the ability to help on this case, it was a lot of doubt, honestly. It's like, this is going to be a ton of work. We're right before trial, and there does require a significant amount of man hours. And when it first came to me, it was like, am I the right person to even do this? And the nice thing was, the partner of Phil Prowse, he came into my office and he reassured me, saying, no, like there's a reason why you're being chosen. I believe you can do it. And I believe we can be a good team together. And with that in mind, I set I set I set foot forward and tried my best in terms of finding out the legal issues, doing the research, and helping as much as I can under his guidance and leadership. And in terms of my role in this, it was mostly understanding what the partner needed in terms of research, organization, evidence, note taking, and preparing the client, and just helping him along the way, because this is such a, like, a lot of people don't understand how much work simply going to argue for 3 hours actually takes. And it takes a full team. Uh, with Phil, so he was an articling student. So he had guidance from some of the older lawyers. And then as he became more senior, he started guiding younger lawyers in that same sense, right? So I was one of the younger lawyers that got the opportunity to do this, but it was definitely a team effort, especially from Phil's perspective, right?
And
So
I like what you're describing in there, which was there was a moment where he came in and said, no, you can do this. I mean,
yeah,
that's really shows, again, the type of person that you're dealing with, for the leader that you're sort of reporting into, in a sense. It also sort of shows a sense of your own grit and tenacity. Like, you didn't quit and go to another firm. You kind of hung in there, and you stayed with it in terms of your own stick-to-itiveness, getting through that process. Any other kind of key people that you would note in this win? Are there people in the courts that came along for the ride, or is it mainly the people in the firm that you can sort of speak to? I don't know. Like, who are the other sort of key players, and how would you describe their attitudes through this thing?
yeah. So I can talk about the firm, and like there is definitely a key player in terms of opposing counsel as well. So Jeff Hope was the opposing counsel at Field Law. Very, very courteous, and he was very, very professional throughout. So having someone like that as opposing counsel really helps the workflow regarding progressing the file and ensuring that everybody has the right information before the court, and both clients get something that they're entitled to. So whether it's good or bad for my client, it's what does the law say and what are these two people actually entitled to. So Jeff Hope was very, very professional in terms of his willingness to deal with us and coming to compromises and coming to agreements along the way. We also have some very, very amazing support staff who do definitely help so much in terms of organization, ensuring that all the documents are together, ensuring we have all the information at our fingertips such that the lawyer can actually do their job. And it's a very understated piece of work that doesn't really get highlighted very much, but definitely the support staff were huge. And I got in here at the end, so I only know the one support staff that was helping out primarily, Megan Gursky, and she was amazing. So she ensured that whenever I needed something in terms of the file, she would look and find it and have it at my fingertips in an email. She ensured that everything was printed out, organized, labeled, and ensured that everything was in place
It's
for our
it's really
success.
fun to hear you talking about, if it takes a village, right?
Yeah,
Really, to get this sort of, if you want to build a precedent and you want to do it right. And all I'm hearing at each step, by the way, is do it right, do it right, do it right. Your partner's
yeah,
advising you to do it right. Do the right thing. Do the right thing values wise. Do the right thing by the law. Thankfully, you had opposing counsel that didn't sound adversarial. They were simply following the law, in a sense, doing, I'm sure, their best on their end to advocate it for on behalf of their client. But you said it created a respectful context where the law was held up, in a sense. And then, of course, you got these great support people all through those dozen years. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more that we could describe, and how lucky that you've got that team in behind you. And so strategy, work plan, people operationally, is sort of the fourth step to explore here. If we're going to change the law, in a sense, or get this done, operationally, we've heard we've got to go through a lot of old case law, in a sense, bring things forward. We have to bring in the best of our arguments on the innovative side, because you mentioned the innovation side. Anything operationally that are highlights in getting this win to occur that you think are worth mentioning?
yeah. It's just being precise. I would characterize it as being precise. So understanding what pieces of evidence you actually have before you, what you need in terms of oral evidence and things that people are going to say. So there was some aspects of experts, so business valuators, things like that. What are they going to say? Who's going to be more credible to the court, and who are they going to believe? And then when we did the arguments, so there's direct evidence. So when we talk to our clients, and then there's cross examination. And the biggest thing in terms of cross examination was understanding the evidence and understanding and predicting what the opposing client is going to say, such that we can craft our arguments in that manner. And the nice thing was when we were doing that cross examination practice and preparation, I was actually there helping, going through mock cross, um, highlighting different sort of pieces of evidence, and even just specific wording in that evidence and putting it towards uh, the opposing client, and really getting the precise facts out that were required for the law.
You can
And
see how much care is involved, right? In terms of just the operational steps. Plus, there's just being organized. There's gathering all the evidence. I heard oral versus written evidence in terms of what we're doing going forward. There's so many different things involved there. And anything else you want to add in operationally?
no, I think you've got it. It's more like operationally just being there consistently organized and just having everything ready to go that is precise
Well, and I'll
because
just I'll roll that back up to your
yeah,
original piece in the strategy, which is like you have a values-based approach to your
yeah,
legal practice, which then means that when you get organized, there's going to be a high level of standard that you're bringing to that level as well. Strategy, work plan, people, operations. Finally, there's results, quantitative results and qualitative results. Quantitatively, I don't know if the books have changed yet in the law, but you know what I mean? Quantitatively, there was a decision. You know
yeah.
what I mean? That was made. There was an award of a number, whatever that is. There's any highlights on the quantitative results that you would describe in this win?
Uh, I think you've got it. It's just the precedent. Like you see so many different blog posts talking about this, and different think leaders weighing in on their opinions on the decision and what it means to the legal profession overall in terms of employment law. And it's massive. Like I didn't think I'd be involved in a case like this so early in my career. So I think you've got it. It's
And,
quantitatively, it's a case and people are relying upon it. So,
and people will rely on it to actually be
yeah.
involved in a case, a precedent setting case, maybe is possibly a once in a career type thing. And I can't know what. It'd be interesting to see when you guys get called about the movie rights to actually
Yes.
make this occur or whatever as we go along the way. Anytime we have results, we have quantitative results, but we also have qualitative results. How does it feel to be involved in this?
Immense pride is the way that I would describe it. Just having that, I guess, circular round uh, solutions from going from hard work, not knowing what's going to happen, to seeing your hard work actually play out and come to a good solution is an immense sense of pride, especially for me. I know everybody at the firm was proud about the decision. I know Phil is proud. Uh, but for me, that is the singular emotion that I feel whenever I talk about this decision and my work and my role within it. Regardless of how many hours you put in, the sacrifices, it always feels worth it after you've gotten something like this, especially with our client being so happy with the decision, being grateful. It's just an all around proud feeling.
All around proud feeling, and it really kind of puts a bow on describing this win. And thank you for sharing that sort of story along the way. It's interesting. A lot of times when I'm just at the end here, because it's leaders that are listening to this podcast, what did you learn about leadership that you would pass along here? Just a couple sentences as we're getting out the door here at the end of the interview. But what did you learn about leadership in this process?
I think trusting others to do good quality work while also encouraging them at the same time is important. So whenever I was late in the office or early in the morning on the weekends, uh, the partners would still be here too, the one that was working on it. And he was there with me throughout this, encouraging me as well as putting in those hours too. It wasn't a, hey, you do this and I'm gonna go enjoy my evenings. It was, no, we're in this together. And I think that's so important in terms of leadership, because if I'm someone that's young and in your team and I see you just flaking things off, it builds that sort of mentality within your juniors. And here I'm gaining that experience that no, sometimes it is a a long haul, and if you can do it, it'll pay off in the end.
Massive pride in the win, massive leadership opportunity in terms of walking side by side and being in the office together as you kind of go through all this together. What a lucky opportunity to meet someone in a legal precedent setting case, and that you've shared it here today with the audience. I just feel so grateful. Thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was honestly so much fun to meet you and be a part of this podcast.
Do the right thing, put in the work, and help to set precedents that will benefit all Albertans in the years to come. That is how Inderjit Dhiman and the team at Prowse Barrette win every day. Thank you, Inderjit, for your inspiring win. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, then make sure to check out our upcoming episodes, which include how to pivot at the right time so you can build many profitable businesses, winning with Nicole Jansen, founder of Diffusion Advisory. And if you want to learn how Executive Wins services like coaching, training, and facilitation can help to align your leadership team so they can optimize decision-making that leads to more profitable quarterly results, then visit executivewins.com to learn how. You can also subscribe to the Executive Wins newsletter to stay up to date on the podcast, live events, education opportunities, and more. Visit executivewins.com/newsletter to sign up. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a fellow leader. And don't forget to check out our resources and links in the show notes. And keep listening to the Executive Wins podcast for more inspiring wins that will help you to grow yourself, your team, and your entire business. Thanks for listening to the Executive Wins podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe as we bring you more inspiring wins from outstanding leaders so you can grow your business.